Have you ever just looked at a map and wondered, how does this simple piece of paper, just a few lines and colors, know exactly how to guide you? Well, it's not magic, but it is a fascinating language. And today, we're going to decode its secrets.
Yeah, it's a really good question, right? I mean, how does a flat piece of paper manage to represent our big, round, complicated world? Well, it all comes down to a few key principles. And trust me, once you get the hang of them, you'll be navigating like a pro in no time.
Okay, first things first, let's think about a globe. A globe is awesome for getting the big picture, seeing the whole planet at once. But it's not exactly helpful if you're trying to find the library in your village, right? For that, you need a map. Think of a map as a detailed slice of the world, zeroing in on a smaller area to give us way more information.
All right, so you've got your map laid out in front of you. Now what? Where do you even start? Well, the very first, most crucial step is finding your north.
So you're gonna look for a little arrow, usually tucked away in a corner, marked with the letter N. That single letter, that's your anchor. It tells you which way is north, and believe me, once you have that, everything else just clicks into place. Okay, so once you've found that N for north, the rest is easy. You automatically know that south is the complete opposite direction, east is gonna be to your right, and west is to your left. And boom, just like that, you've oriented not just the map, but yourself to the world around you. But hang on, what if the place you're trying to get to isn't exactly north or exactly east? Well, that's where these intermediate directions come in. They sit right in between the main points, giving you much more precision to pinpoint exactly where you need to go. And if you're actually out there in the field, this is where a compass becomes your absolute best friend. That little magnetic needle will always point north-south, which lets you line up your paper map perfectly with the actual ground beneath your feet. Okay, so we've got our direction down, but let's be real. Maps obviously aren't life-sized, so how in the world do they pull off this incredible trick of shrinking an entire landscape down onto a single sheet of paper? The answer is a really clever concept called scale. And all it is really is a ratio. It's a simple little formula that tells you exactly how much the real world was shrunk down to fit on that page. So here's how that works in practice. Let's take a village map. It would use what's called a large scale. That just means that a pretty small distance on the map, let's say 5 centimeters, could represent a much bigger distance in reality, maybe something like 500 meters, something you could actually walk. And that's the whole point, really. By focusing on a smaller area, these large-scale maps can pack in a ton of detail. We're talking every little road, every building, maybe even specific things like a well. It just gives you a much richer, more useful picture than a map of a whole country ever could. Okay, so we've got direction, and we've got distance. That's 2 big pieces of the puzzle. But what about all the stuff in a place? How does a map show you all that rich detail? Well, it uses a kind of secret language, a language of symbols and colors. I mean, just think about it for a second. It would be totally impossible to draw every single tree or every single house exactly as it looks in real life, right? The map would be a mess. So instead, map makers came up with a shared set of symbols, a universal language that anyone can understand no matter where you're from. And here are some of the heavy hitters, the ones you'll see all the time. In fact, many of them are part of an international agreement. So blue, that's pretty much always going to be water, rivers, wells, you name it. Green is for plains, trees, grass. Brown is used for mountains. And then you'll see little abbreviations too, like PO for a post office or PS for a police station. It's a super efficient shorthand that works everywhere. All right, one last thing, and this is actually pretty important. Not everything that looks like a map is a map. We need to talk about the key difference between a quick sketch and a really detailed plan. So a sketch, that's like when you grab a napkin to draw directions to your house for a friend. It's rough, it's based on memory, and it's definitely not drawn to scale. A plan, though, is the total opposite. It's incredibly detailed and drawn on a massive scale. A perfect example is an architect's blueprint for just one room. That's a plan. It shows the exact length and breadth of everything. So let's bring it all home. When you boil it all down, reading any map is really about mastering 3 simple things. First, direction. That N arrow is your guide. Second, distance. The scale is what shrinks the world down for you. And third, symbols. That's the universal language the map uses to talk to you. Once you have these tools, a map really stops being just a piece of paper. It becomes a story, just waiting for you to read it. So the next time you pick up a map,
Whether it's of your own town, a national park, or even some fantasy world, take a second and ask yourself, what story is this map trying to tell me?